Hello everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be talking about a video response that I'm right now doing to Eigh8t, the Chosen One's video of Top 10 Overlooked Horror Films, I think it was called. That should be in every horror collector's collection. Now, we're not just going to get into the crap here. Eigh8t, the Chosen One stated that very clearly. There's no crap here. This is just straight up horror, not that stuff that you find at the discount. Some of these are cheaper to buy, these aren't really expensive films, but like he said, not that Flight of the Living Dead crap. This is real stuff. This is legit. Now first, I got a bunch of honorable mentions here. I didn't realize how many honorable mentions I had. Oh, one of these isn't an honorable mention, actually. That one's not an honorable mention, that one's an actual part of the list. We got Cemetery Man, you know, it has a good popularity. So that's why it's not officially on this list. Laid to Rest and Chrome Skull Laid to Rest too. Most slasher collectors collect those. The first two Wreck films, haven't seen the third one. Once they stopped being found footage, they stopped caring. First one's the best. Second one's pretty good. It feels more like a better Doom movie. I know it's still in its shrink wrap, but I have seen it before. It is really good. Scream Park. Very, very good indie film. It feels very independent, and I highly recommend checking it out. It's very cheap. Find it anywhere, basically. And lastly, it's Trauma, so that's why it's not on the list, but I had it laying around and I want to talk about it a little bit. Poltergeist, Night of the Chicken Dead. Everyone knows this one. It's one of Trauma's best. Highly recommended if I haven't seen already. And since I have it laying here from a Superior Scream, which I already reviewed, that was just laying here because I didn't clean up this room at all. Now, anyways, let's get on to the real list. Now, the first one is an After Dark horror film. It's not the one that Eigh8t chose. I've tried to make sure that I'm not copying Eigh8t at all here. The first one is Borderland. This is probably my favorite of the After Dark Horror Fest films. It's very similar to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's not the same plot, but it has that feel, that gritty tone to it, and it just works. It functions so well, and it's so sad to see that this one has been so overlooked, because this deserves a very, very solid following. A lot more people need to see this. And it's dramatic, it's disturbing, it's similar to Devil's Rejects. If someone liked Devil's Rejects, they'll like this, I promise. Next is Stage Fright. This is a very new film, but not a lot of people are talking about it, and that makes me sad. It's from Magnet Releasing, and it is a lot of fun. It's a horror musical. This didn't get that high of reviews from either fans or critics on Rotten Tomatoes as far as I'm concerned. But it really should. The music's really good. It's really catchy. The first song they do, I didn't like that much, the We're Here one. But it's still, overall, a great movie. It has good metal in it, good, catchy songs. In fact, even though I don't like the We're Here song, it's stuck in my head right now. It won't stop playing. Poltergeist did the horror musical thing better, but that one's more of a comedy than it is a straight-up horror film. But this is, seriously, check it out. It's not terrifying, but it is a lot of fun. It harkens back to the ages of old 80s slasher films. Next is, this movie is actually a horror film. Entity. Now, I remember reading something that the director who directed this film didn't want it to be an actual horror film. He said he was trying to go for a mystery thriller film, but it's scary. And a lot of people say it might be slow or boring, but it's creepy. If people forget what horror is when they watch this, this is a legitimately good movie. It's not fast-paced. This is probably one of the most disturbing films, because it's apparently based on a true story. I don't know how true that is. And it's about a ghost that basically rapes this woman. And at the end, when they say what happened, that sent chills down my spine. This is a very, very demented movie. Like I said, I have no idea how accurate the true story thing is. Everyone's got to be whatever about that. Sorry. But seriously, it's a little long. It's like over 2 hours. It's kind of ridiculous for a horror film. But seriously, really good. Harkens back to The Exorcist. It ranks up there. It's one of the creepiest films ever. Very underappreciated. And I got, you can find it for about, like, what, $7 on at FYE, that's what I got for. And the only reason I bring it up is because the only time I ever heard about it was from Water Cooler Productions, that YouTube channel, and no one else has ever talked about it. I haven't seen any of my horror friends talk about it. They might have, but it was never a big subject, and I hope that movie gets recognized a bit more. I doubt it's going to get any like sequels now, but I wouldn't want one anyway. Anyways, we're moving on, and this is a very underrated vampire film. It's Near Dark. It's one of those 80s vampire films similar to Lost Boys, Fright Night. This one's a lot more violent than The Lost Boys. Lost Boys is my favorite film of all time, by the way, and this one, it's not on par with it, but it's still really good. I liked the tone of Lost Boys a bit better. It wasn't that this one's very violent, kind of depressing. The Lost Boys, it's more 80s feeling. This one, though, this is very violent, very brutal. This has a really great cast. It has so many actors from Aliens, it's not even funny. It has Lance Henriksen, Bill Paxton, and I think... What was the name of the girl from... Yeah, Jeanette Goldstein. This is basically an Aliens reunion, even though I think Aliens might have come out after this. No, they might have come out around the same time. 1987, this says. When did the others come out? I think 86. I could be wrong. And they never say the word vampire in it. That was something interesting I realized while I was watching the film. But they do drink blood. It's also made by the lady who made Hurt Locker and Zero Dark 30. This needs to be recognized a bit more on its acting and directing merits alone. This is a fantastic film. The next I reviewed, I can't really stress enough how this is my favorite slasher film of all time. This is wonderful. It's gory, it's fun, it's entertaining. It did the Friday the 13th thing better than Friday the 13th did, and I cannot recommend it enough. It is such a fun film that I can watch it again, and I probably will soon. Next, I'm not sure how rare this is. I haven't seen it much anywhere else aside from, I gotta make sure there's no nudity in this. No, there isn't. It's called Cat in the Brain. This goes by another name. I forget what it is, though. Yeah, I can't really find what. Because this goes by more than one name. Cat in the Brain is the one I'm going to call it, though. It's a Lucio Fulci film, very violent, very demented. It's very surreal. It's probably the most surreal film I saw. Lucio Fulci, as we all know, is an Italian master of horror. And this one's gone overlooked. I don't understand why. This fits the Italian horror thing really well. It's stuff like Suspiria, all of the Argento films. This ranks up there with them. It can be placed alongside those. I highly recommend checking this one out. If you haven't checked it out already, you definitely should, because it's a lot of fun. It has a lot of good reviews on it on the back. It's demented. The ending was kind of weird, but aside from that, it is really good. Alright, there's some in here that actually, I want to rearrange this a little bit, because I want to save. It's not the best for last. These aren't in any particular order, but I want to talk about the last one a bit more. The next is, this was one of my favorite films of the decade. It's Teeth. I know it's the Blockbuster exclusive one, but it's the only, I couldn't find it anywhere else. And this is a funny horror film. It's demented. It's just it's uncomfortable, but it's so well made and well acted, and it has such a great sense of humor about it that it's ranked up there. I haven't seen. There's a Japanese movie called Sexual Parasite. I remember when before people were saying that this is a remake of that. I don't think it is, because I think Sexual Parasite is actually something that comes out of her. No, the teeth are inside of her. And yes, it's about a toothed vagina. The vagina dentata is what they call it throughout the entire movie. And it's really good. People should talk about this more. The Dimension Extreme movies, some of them are, like, a lot of them are hit or miss. This is a hit, in my opinion. Some people might not like it because it's not really gory and stuff like that, but it really still needs to be it's worth a watch at least once if you haven't seen it already. Next is one of the best werewolf movies in years. I cannot recommend this enough. It may be one of the top 10 werewolf movies ever, and it's Dog Soldiers. Freaking Dog Soldiers. Got this at a video store while it was closing down for like $2, and it's the best $2 I've ever spent on a werewolf movie. It's not as good as American Werewolf from Not London, don't get me wrong, but this is along the lines of, Evil Dead, Night of the Living Dead, but with werewolves, and it is wonderful. Don't believe the Jaws thing; it's not like Jaws at all. The werewolves look wonderful. The violence is gory and all that fun stuff, and it is just a fun film. I remember I watched this a lot when I think I watched it. I watched it more than once when I first got it. I gotta pop this back in again. I gotta show this to more people, and hopefully y'all will expect it too. Next, this one. It's going to be a bit pricier to get because it is a Criterion release, but it is still worth checking out because it's considered one of the first gore films ever made. And it's Jigoku. Jigoku, I'm pretty sure translates to hell in Japanese because that's what it says in the title. Yeah, it says Jigoku, Hell, aka the Sinners of Hell. And basically, the movie starts out, it's an hour long of nothing horror related. It's basically showing, it's not a spoiler, it's the plot. This isn't a spoiler, it's the plot. It's basically showing why these people are going to hell. Some people it doesn't make sense why they went to hell. But that's the whole reason of the first hour of the movie. And then the next 40 minutes is them in hell. And it's very brutal, very gruesome. And how hell looks is really, really cool. I like the look of hell in that movie. And it's not the Christian hell, it's the Buddhist hell, I think, is what they said. Yeah, it says right here, in the gloriously gory final third of the film. Did it say on here? Well, whatever. The ending, I will say, makes no sense at all. I was actually really confused when I saw this ending. I'm not sure what they were trying to imply, but I'd rather have an ending that actually ends, but the movie doesn't really have an ending. It just kind of stops. And I'm not kidding, the movie really does stop, and then it shows another scene. Aside from that, though, it is really, really good. I was surprised how much I enjoyed it. It's slow at the beginning, but the hell scene, that was cool. That was awesome. I cannot recommend this movie enough for that hell scene alone. It's worth the payoff. And it's not one of those movies where I say, skip the beginning, go to the hell scene. No, let that be the build-up. Let yourself be built up to that point, because everyone knows it's coming, the hell scene. And when it finally gets to it, it is wonderful. And last but not least, this is another independent film. I talked about this recently in my top 10 splatter films, and it's Darkness the Vampire Virgin. Why am I bringing this up again? Because it needs to be talked about a bit more. I forgot about how much I liked this movie, how much I loved this movie. Now, it's not one of my favorite films of all time, because when I talk about that, I talk about movies that are actually released theatrically. This wasn't. It had kind of a theatrical release. It was showed at some independent screenings, but this movie, it is awesome. This is gore, indie horror done well, done absolutely right. It's done on a really low budget camera, and this is a reversible cover, by the way. That's what's really cool about this. This is the other side. That's the booklet. This is the other side of the art. I like this one better because it shows how violent this film is and how much fun this film is. This movie knows exactly what it says. It is. Like I said, it's called Darkness the Vampire Virgin because there's more than one movie called Darkness. Before Blade, before Vampires, before Underworld, before Forsaken, before 30 Days of Night, there was Darkness, the internationally acclaimed underground cult classic. And yeah, it's awesome. And this is the director's cut. I never saw the original cut. This has a lot of great reviews all over it because it's a wonderful indie film. I'm not sure if this is out of print. I didn't look it up. I think I found this sitting around at FYE once, so I think it still is in print, and that was recently. Definitely look it up. This is the 1-disc version. There's a 2-disc version, which I could never find. I got this for Christmas one year, so that's why it's the 1-disc version. And the ending is one of the goriest segments in any movie. It looks cheap, but it's still wonderful. Anyways, that's my top 10 horror films that are overlooked that should be in everyone's collection. Obviously, that's not going to be the title if that's not what Eigh8t titled his. But seriously, I'm going to add them all together. Hope I don't drop them. All these movies here that I'm holding, check them all out. Because these need to be sitting in the collection, not some crap that the Asylum put out, which I like the Asylum, I collect their movies, but don't just get filler, get stuff that people want to watch. Anyways, that's my video for this. I hope to catch you guys later. Take care.